it's been great to kind of do this as a bit of an experiment, to just see. I knew that there were lots of creative industries in town. As we're coming out of COVID, there's a lot of people working from home, wanting to get out. And at the same time, all the changes that are happening with retail and the way that there's open space to be used, we just thought, well, maybe we can activate that as a community. So the launch today is to kind of feed everyone and have a nice time and get to know each other, but it's also to kind of activate the community. So now we're all in the space. We can probably say it's officially activated. Now it's up to us, I guess, to fill up the rest of the arcade with activity and creativity, and I don't think it will take us very long. What we thought we would do, because really the heart of this, I'm Eric Liebeck, for those of you who don't know. I'm a senior lecturer in education at the University of Manchester. Some of my colleagues, I can see Felix there, and Suzanne there, and some folks have come from Manchester, Oldham, Liverpool, all over. So what we started with was just a kind of a question of what sort of skill strategy would we need in a place like Southport, and that led me to conversations with Bid. So Rachel has set off, and then also spoken with Michelle. So that's and Keith as well, Keith Malloy over at Southport. We just sort of talked about if the aim of things like the town deal is to diversify the economy into creative and digital, what is the kind of infrastructure that we need from a skills point of view, from a talent pipeline point of view, and a lot of that just starts with having the space and having the people in the space to do interesting things. So that's what this is about. But I thought no better way of sort of communicating that than talking to Michelle and Ian, who have probably been the closest. We discussed this probably more than we'd like to admit, but I'll just pass the mic over to Michelle, and otherwise just thank you all for coming, and please feed yourselves. There's tons of food after the talks.
Good evening. I don't know quite what to say in order to really follow Eric's introduction there, but I think really from my point of view, just before we say anything else, I would just like to say a huge congratulations to Eric for actually getting us onto this stage, because I feel that is one heck of an achievement. So come on, let's give it a great And so I'm standing here today, and I'm assuming as a teacher you can probably all hear me whether I'm close to this microphone or not, wave if you can't. But I'm standing here today, I'm Michelle Bradmer. I have the absolute pleasure and privilege of being the CEO and principal of Southport Education Group, which has got both Southport College, which is literally just a little sniff over in that direction, and also our KGB sixth form college that we have in our town as well. And that's really what started out our conversation between Eric and I. And we really, I suppose, kind of came to this at quite an interesting point in time. We were just reminiscing about this actually just a few moments ago. So as Eric said, we've had many a conversation over some quite extended periods, and I always find it quite a stimulating conversation with Eric, because all of a sudden, instead of talking to all of my wonderful 16, 17, 19, 25 and so on year olds, I'm speaking to somebody who's coming at the same problems but from a very different direction. And some of our very first meetings took place about 3 years ago actually, and we were just sort of saying, do you remember those days when we weren't really able to be in the same room, or you couldn't shake anybody's hand, you were sat a distance away, and yet we had these wonderful conversations about the passion that we both have around making sure that actually young people, but people of all different ages, have got some amazing and wonderful opportunities within the skills that they want to develop and in the skills sectors that we need, but actually within Southport and the Southport area, the broader region that we are serving. And I think that's where we kind of had a coming together of minds on a lot of this, because we know, don't we, that there is a massive push for people to have opportunities to upskill or indeed to reskill. And we also know that within Southport there's some wonderful long histories in the sort of the creative side of things, all of that, this wonderful economic vibrance that is perhaps a little different to some other places. And that makes Southport this wonderfully unique place. But at the same time as starting these conversations around this idea of upskilling and developing skills and so on, there was also this clear need to start to think about diversifying the economy within the Southport area. And things started to align quite nicely. We were, of course, very successful in our Southport Town Deal application and all the projects that were going on there. We were all kind of coming back into our workplaces. There were changes in the economy, changes in job opportunities, and people really starting to consider what their options were and driving that whole skills agenda. And sometimes the stars just align very nicely, don't they? And this is when Eric and I started talking about exactly what could we start to do within Southport. And I think he's landed on something quite unique here. We know that people wanted to get back into the same space, a bit of co-working, with some flexibility. We need to get back into that idea of tapping into the creative industries and developing that into the digital skills agenda that's going on in our region as well. But being very open to this idea that it's across a variety of age groups. Certainly when I was young and growing up, which I'd like to think wasn't so long ago, but in reality it's a while back, we often thought of having a singular career, didn't we? So you would go through school, you'd go through your education, you got qualifications, you got your career, and that was it. And you moved into a successful retirement. Nowadays that's quite different, I would say. I would say that many people, and some of you included in this room, might well be in a position where you're thinking you'd like a change of career, you want to upskill or you want to reskill. And there's multiple opportunities to do that nowadays. So quite a change in thinking. One of the things that Eric and I have talked about a lot, and this has also led into many conversations you can imagine between myself and Ian and other local sort of educators, head teachers, etc., is the concept of our younger generations and what their expectations are. And in Southport, we've often talked about youth flight. Now I'm just going to challenge us on that, because when I first started my conversations with Eric, it was a massive concern. Youth flight was kind of, oh, youth flight, all the young people are leaving, oh, and then they come back in their 40s and 50s, and what's happened in the meantime. And we do get that. I'm not stood here trying to say that doesn't happen, I wouldn't say that. But I'm just going to challenge us and say, actually, maybe we should be embracing some of this, and what we're trying to do is actually encouraging our wonderful young people who are excelling and are able to have a wonderful flight to different experiences in different areas of the country. What we're trying to do is encourage them to be back earlier, at an earlier stage, so they are joining in on our key economic drivers in the region. And so that's my challenge now, is to really start and think not so much about youth flight, which sounds like it's going in one direction, but maybe it's about youth return. Yeah. It's about driving that side of things. I've been talking to a couple of students today who are really excited about opportunities to apply to the likes of Oxford University and Cambridge University. We're never going to cap that. I will never, as an educator, say to them, oh no, I don't really think you need to stay in Southport. Southport's wonderful, but we haven't got a Cambridge University and we haven't got an Oxford University. Don't get me wrong, we've got brilliant universities not very far away. Absolutely agree with that. But we should never be capping the young people's aspirations, or the older generation's aspirations either. And so I think that's a wonderful piece of work that we're now starting to tap into, which is, okay, acknowledge that some of our young people do want different experiences, but my word, they can come back and be part of our economy and drive that whole skills agenda and make this town, this region, an ever better, ever stronger place. And that's really where my conversation, see, it was a conversation and a half with Eric, that, wasn't it? But really that's where we've got to. In terms of the actual, the physical space that we're in now, the whole concept of the engine room, I think it's really exciting for us as an organisation to be able to support this and be involved in it. Because I think there's quite a few aspects of education that people would perhaps love to access, but they just simply don't want to walk through the door of a college. For previous experiences perhaps. And so one of the things that we're really excited to have been doing with Eric and will continue to do over time is support those opportunities, perhaps in a space more like this rather than in our traditional college buildings. So who knows, we might all be here in a few months' time doing some sort of boot camp, upskilling in a different area that right now you don't even realise you want to do or exist. but we all know the power of Eric's personality. He can probably get us all signed up to just about anything. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for celebrating the success of what's been achieved so far. And I look forward to being back with you all here at some point in the future, doing something wonderful and new. So thank you so much.
Good evening. My name's Ian Parry. I'm Director of Education at Southport Learning Trust. So for those of you who don't know, Southport Learning Trust is a multi-academy trust based in Southport. And we're very fortunate that actually we've got 4 of the secondary schools that are in Southport, as well as Kew Woods Primary. And it gives us quite a unique opportunity that I'll come on to. So I grew up in Southport. My first ever job was about 100 yards that way, putting people on boats on the Marine Lake. And my girlfriend for a long time worked just below us in the crystal shop, and I'd pick her up from work every Saturday afternoon. So I know Southport very well. I'm born and bred in Southport. And I was kind of probably that youth flight guy. I kind of went away to university and was one of those people who thought I'm probably not going to come back to Southport, even though my roots are here. And I always had a close affinity to Southport. And then about 12 years ago, I was teaching in a school in Kirkby. I was asked if I'd be interested in getting involved in another project in Liverpool. So I was asked to go to a meeting in a shed with a couple of very interesting guys that are quite similar to Eric, who were quite inspiring. And 12 years on, you'll all know that place as the Baltic Triangle, which is bringing over £60 million to that area a year. They've got over 300 different businesses, and I think anyone who's visited it is quite an inspiring place. We actually built a school in the middle of there, so the Life Science UTC and Studio School, we built a school in the middle of there, and it was a really powerful place to be. And it was very much that idea that if we build it, they will come. And actually, it was just like this. It was just actually some inspiring people who brought people together, who just did some really interesting things. We didn't really know what it was going to be. We didn't know what it was going to do. But actually, what it did is it actually just gave us a place and people together to make interesting things happen. And I think we are in a really, really exciting time as a town. You know, the regeneration money that's coming in and the work that's going on in the buildings across the town. But I think we'd all agree that the most important part of regeneration of this town is going to be the people. And actually, what's quite inspiring is that we need spaces like this that are going to bring people together to have those interesting conversations and exciting things happen. And every time I come here, which is, I've come here a number of times now, something new is happening. Every time I come here, last time I came here, I went away with a 3D design print competition that we're going to run across 5 of our schools, and then run a competition down in the space down there. And I've also now started a conversation with Eric about another building locally where we're going to look at taking some students to get involved with other opportunities there. And that's the exciting thing, that if every time we all come together, then this grows and builds, and it creates that incredible place that we need. As Michelle alluded to earlier, I feel hugely privileged that I get to spend a lot of time in our schools around Southport, and it's we've got some really talented young people who, as a generation of young people, I think the more that we can expose them to extraordinary thinking, the more that we can expose them to those creative industries and those creative sectors, the more that we can get them to think differently, can only be a good thing for them, for our town, and for society. Let's face it, that's what's going to make the change. So it's a huge privilege to stand here today. It's a huge privilege to be involved in the work that's going on, and I genuinely hope that we're stood. Maybe not in this room in 10 years' time, because I've got a feeling this could become something quite large. But I think this is one of those. Remember when you saw the Beatles at the Cavern? you were in the room in every live on the very first day. So thank you very much, and enjoy your evening.
Yeah, so that's, thank you very much for the vote of confidence. And And yeah, I think what Ian and Michelle have alluded to is as you can tell, I'm not a local like Ian. I'm from New Jersey originally, but I've been in the UK 12 years, and I think the first time I visited Southport, I came into this Wayfarers Arcade and just thought, we don't have anything like this. This is a really one of a kind, almost like world significant place, and all it takes is just a bit of effort. So I'm really grateful to everyone for coming today, and the effort that you need to put in is have a good time, really. So just keep doing that, and then hopefully it'll all work out from there. So eat, drink, be merry, and just really come back. That's it.